These were mostly breadwinners. They were on their way to work early in the morning. They were dropping off their families to school. They were trying to make their daily bread. They are farm workers, they're landscapers, they're contractors, they're Pineros, and overall Oregon's economic engine. I know some were on their way to make Christmas wreaths. Our attorneys from Innovation Law Lab and Clear Clinic were able to swiftly reach and file a habeas petition for 5 of those detained, so there are some good news in the middle of all of this chaos. Already 2 people are going to be returning home to their families today, so we're very happy to hear that, and we're very thankful for the work of Innovation Law Lab and Clear Clinic. This is what due process looks like when attorneys can access their clients. If everyone who ICE snatched from our communities were allowed to meet with their attorneys, how many more families could be with their people tonight? These are Oregonians who are trying to feed their families with safety and with dignity. These are families who came here seeking safety and a better life. These are families who had the courage and the tenacity to move everything to this country for a hope and a dream, and yet every single day, there are people that are being snatched by Trump's mass secret police, and they are being kidnapped from our communities. ICE and Border Patrol are recklessly and violently targeting Oregonians on their way to work in the fields, on their way to grocery stores, and on their way to school drop-offs. We know that they're targeting people based on the color of their skin, or even just for speaking Spanish, because they don't care about any of us. They don't care if they're busting down the door of someone who is actually not on their list of people to be detained and they get the wrong person. They are also denying so many people access to counsel. Families that have been torn apart, businesses are ghost towns right now. These people are hunting Oregonians. Our families, neighbors, loved ones, and colleagues are being targeted over and over again. Oregon is our home, and we need to protect and defend the place that we call home. We're calling on all Oregonians today to support immigrant families who are impacted by ICE arrests, and we are opening up to make donations to our Economic Stability Fund at Oregon Worker Relief. So you can donate at www.workerrelief.org. And next, I am proud to introduce Graham Trainer, President of the Oregon AFL-CIO.
Thank you, Raina, and good morning. As Raina said, my name is Graham Trainer, and I'm proud to serve as president of the Oregon AFL-CIO, the statewide federation of labor unions. And I'm proud to be here today on behalf of over 300,000 working people in Oregon, and I'm especially proud to be here in the Oregon House of Labor to make a few things crystal clear. That the Oregon labor movement will always stand with our immigrant community, no matter the time, the place, or the threat. And 2, that our movement, our labor movement, believes that we can never truly achieve economic and social justice for the working class without also achieving immigrant and racial justice. Union members and their families are from every community. We are nurses, we are firefighters, educators, school employees, grocery workers, construction workers, steel workers, and more. Many union members in Oregon are immigrants themselves, or from immigrant families as well. And we are deeply concerned about the relentless and indiscriminate arrests happening in our state. These Oregonians are essential workers who wake up every day to feed and care for their families, and they're being taken from our communities. For 3 weeks straight, ICE and Border Patrol have knocked on doors, pulled workers from their homes and their jobs, and mothers from their children. Make no mistake, Trump does not care about Oregonians and our future. He is targeting our neighbors, our colleagues, and friends. He's ripping apart families. He's targeting immigrant families who are integral to our communities and working hard to make our state stronger. Trump and his allies are scapegoating immigrant Oregonians, so we miss what is really happening here. The Trump administration found billions of our taxpayer dollars to spend on this lawless Secret Service force, yet this weekend, in just a couple days, millions of Americans will go hungry because he refuses to fund SNAP, including 757,000 Oregonians. The Trump administration found hundreds of millions to build his personal ballroom, Yet our government is shut down because he wants to deny Americans affordable health care. For the last 3 weeks, the Trump administration has chosen to arrest and separate thousands of Oregon families and make our communities less stable and families less secure. This is immoral and cruel. It's harming all of us and our futures. We must protect and defend the place that we call home, and we will never back down from that mission. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our final speaker, Metro Councilor from District 4, Juan Carlos Gonzalez.
Thank you. Buenos dias. Good morning. My name is Juan Carlos Gonzalez. I'm a Metro Councilor. I represent Northern and Western Washington County on our regional government. I'm a lifelong Oregonian. I was born in Forest Grove, raised in Cornelius, and I now live in Beaverton with my wife and our lovely newborn. My district is the most culturally and premier employers, including Nike and Intel, a thriving agricultural industry with some of the country's finest berries and renowned wine country. And we also have hundreds of thousands of families who call Washington County home. For the last 3 weeks, families across our county have been shattered by the heartless and callous arrests of law-abiding Oregonians trying to build a better life for themselves and for their families. Mothers, fathers, uncles, and tias who make our state stronger and vibrant. Community members have been dragged out of their cars, taken near grocery stores, from their apartment buildings, and snatched from their work sites while they are on their breaks. A few days ago, I spoke about Victor Cruz, a Hillsborough father and a grandfather who was wrongfully detained by ICE. This is a man who has been here for more than 30 years. He is a father, a grandfather, and a staple in a close-knit Latino community within Hillsborough. He has a work permit. He's here lawfully. He is a law-abiding Oregonian. Yet despite his record and his deep connections to this community, ICE entered his home without a warrant and arrested him wrongfully. And I am retelling this story because it should give pause to all of us. Victor is like many others who have been arrested in recent weeks, hardworking and upstanding members of our communities. These are fathers and mothers, mamás y papás, who make our communities more prosperous and more resilient, yet they are kidnapped just like that. And it should concern all of us. Trump's lawless secret police force is unaccountable to our leaders. They are unaccountable to our members of Congress and even to law enforcement professionals who are charged with protecting our state, our cities, and our neighborhoods. What every Oregonian must consider in this moment is how we live in a society where masked secret police can operate without guardrails in our communities, who answer to nobody. Or a society where its citizens are at risk of being snatched off of our streets. We need to wake up. We need to wake up that this has never been about public safety. This is a cynical ploy to try to divide us along racial lines, to distract us while they strip away our health care and starve our communities. Trump and his billionaires want to control all aspects of American life and decide who gets to be an American. This is our home, and we are here to stay. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. We will fight to protect this place, this beautiful place that we call Oregon. And at this time, we will take your questions. Thank you again for being here.
Start in the room. Any questions for Juan Carlos?
What are you going to do about some of these arrests that you say are wrongful? Are you going to kind of go through the courts, get recompense? What's going to happen with some?
We actually did file a lawsuit right after we saw a significant escalation a couple of weeks ago, the Clear Clinic versus Nome lawsuit. And for us, it was really important to know that there was going to be the ability to get due process. There was a significant escalation the second week of October, and we were really just keeping an eye on things and realized that the majority of people that were getting there were being denied access to an attorney. So for us is making sure that people get that due process, give us at least a chance to get them legal representation. And now we're seeing that, especially this week with the habeas petitions that were filed, that we're actually able to get people justice when those things do happen. But again, it really does depend on us being able to get them access to their legal counsel. Yeah.
Several times I've been where they say federal agents would not identify themselves, no badge numbers, no saying who they are. People in the public that see something happen, what should they do? What can they do?
We actually have some instructions on the Oregon for All website around how to record. It's really important that people understand that they shouldn't be trying to interfere with anything that's happened that would put them at risk as well, but you can record, and many times we have found that we are recording those exact moments where people are being denied their constitutional rights. Even in the incidents that happened yesterday, there was a point where one of the ICE officers said some things to one of the recorders that really could be used by the person that was being impacted by the detention to be able to benefit them during their habeas petition. These things are very important. We want to make sure that these agents are following the law and respecting our constitutional rights. And I'll go to her and then I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Can you share any specifics on the locations where workers were detained yesterday or time of day?
Yeah, this was actually pretty early in the morning, so we're really seeing a lot of the activity come through between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7:30, and this is exactly when Woodburn, at least, is hustling and bustling. There's vans that are taking workers to work to different farm sites, so we were seeing that happen in the most active areas, near a lot of where our contracting services are on the 99, near farm worker housing. I would say that yesterday was really all over the city, but those are some of the biggest hotspots that we have in our community. I'll go back to you.
Have you ever seen anything like this not getting access to lawyers? This is unprecedented. Like, how would you describe it?
In terms of this particular administration, it has been a pretty common occurrence. And in terms of just the last couple of weeks, I would say that we haven't seen anything like it in the sense that they are moving so quickly that we just haven't been able to get legal counsel to folks.
Rana, we have two questions online.
Okay, I'll go over here and then we'll go to the online questions.
Piggybacking
Yeah.
off of that, the police says hundreds of immigrant Oregonians were arrested by ICE in the past month. Do you guys have an idea of a more specific number? Because ICE is not speaking to reporters at this time amid the shutdown.
Yeah, and they haven't been sharing their numbers. The best data that we have is really what's coming through the hotline, right? So we had at least 200 that were coming from Washington County over the last couple weeks, and then we had 31 that came in yesterday through the PERC hotline just in Woodburn. But, that's just what we know. There's plenty of people out there that didn't have the PERC number, so those we just don't know how many more there could have been. Yeah.
I've seen that people, when they get arrested, they try to fight and they try to run. Is that a good idea to do or not?
We don't recommend that at all. I mean, one of the best tool that you can have is the little red cards that tell you what your rights are, and you have many, many rights, even when you're interacting with a federal agent, even if you are a citizen, if you are a green card holder, or you're mixed immigration status. And many of those rights are as simple as just the right to remain silent. And making sure that you have that little card is gonna be the first tool, I think, for many just civilians that are out in our community. Did you want to do the online question?
Yeah. Cedar, you're up.
Hi, Cedar Atanasio with the Associated Press in Seattle. I wanted to ask you two questions that are related. One, why do you think these habeas petitions were successful? I know that a lot of them are difficult, so if you could explain to us, why they worked and why they worked so quickly. And then my second question is, we're noticing that litigation over habeas is getting slowed down because of the government shutdown. Have you seen that affecting anybody that you're working with, where slowdown in the courts due to the government shutdown is actually preventing people from being able to get out of detention?
And I might kick this one off to Isa or anyone else who might know a little bit more of the legal side of things. But again, I'm gonna go back to the recordings, any of that kind of information that our attorneys can get, legal counsel can get, is gonna support and be able to help in a habeas petition. So we're seeing that any of that kind of material is really supporting us being able to make a case for people. And then the other question around the shutdown, Isa, do you want to jump in on any of this?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, you're just more connected on the habeas petition
This
stuff.
is Isa Peña from Innovation Law Lab.
Gonna die. Isa Peña with Innovation Law Lab. Can you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Cedar from AP. Can you repeat the question?
Hi, Isa, thank you. And do you spell Peña with an N?
Yes.
So we're noticing in, for example, the class action habeas lawsuits out of Tacoma, that litigation is paused because the government lawyers don't have to meet their deadlines due to the shutdown. And I'm wondering, in your patch with your clients, has the government shutdown done anything to delay habeas petitions or litigation that would lead people to be getting out of detention?
I mean, certainly I think, part of the government shutdown is to deprive people of their food, their health care, their access to justice, and I definitely do think it is part of depriving them of access to counsel. So we have seen some delays in our filings. That is why we are filing quickly and asking for immediate orders for relief so that we can try to get people free as soon as possible.
Another question.
Amal, you're up. Hi, yeah, thank you so much for putting this press conference together. My name is Amal, and I'm with News. I was hoping to learn a little bit more. I think one of the speakers mentioned that Spanish language translation has been an issue with folks who are being detained. I'm hoping you could speak a little bit about some of the indigenous languages that people in this community speak and how that's being addressed or resources or lack thereof.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, and I'll go back to kind of the due process side of things again, and going back to Clear Clinic versus Nome, where what we were seeing was that in the farm worker community, there are many, many folks that identify as indigenous communities of Mexico and Central America. They speak exclusively indigenous languages. The top spoken, at least for our members, is Purépecha, Mixteco, and now a big wave of Mayan and Mam languages. So when folks are denied due process, they are not being connected with not even an attorney, but also somebody who can translate in their language. And that can be very disorienting, very scary, very confusing for people, because I mean, just imagine even Spanish is difficult. But this is really creating a situation where people aren't able to communicate what they need, people aren't able to communicate with their families, and again, it goes back to this right to due process for people.
So I wonder whether you could talk to organizations around the country to find out whether this particular area is being highlighted or whether this is happening everywhere and you're just highlighting this area. What's your impression?
Oh, yes. We are in communication with folks out in Chicago. We were in communication through some of the national networks, for example, with Chila down in LA when they were responding locally to earlier in the administration. And it's interesting, there are some varying tactics in different parts of the country, but I would say that here in Oregon in particular, what we've been seeing wasn't what we thought we would see historically in the past. It's been raids, and we thought maybe we'd see checkpoints, but we're seeing very specifically that there are folks that are being monitored for a while by immigration, and those folks are being targeted for an ICE arrest. And even yesterday, with the situation with the 31 detainments that happened, it's very likely that maybe it was one person in the work truck that was being targeted, but then unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time for many of the other workers that were there as well.
And have you got an idea of why this area is being highlighted? What, in your opinion, is wrong?
These are areas that are known for being high farm worker, high immigrant labor force areas. Marion County, for example, we're the #2 agricultural district in the country, or in the state, I'm sorry. And it's no secret, the agricultural workforce is a predominantly migrant, immigrant, seasonal workforce. So unfortunately, targeting some of the most vulnerable workers and knowing that these are places where there's going to be a concentration of immigrant and Latino families. Sad to say.
We have another one online now.
Mia, you're up.
Yeah, hi all, this is Mia Maldonado with the Oregon Capital Chronicle. I just wanted to ask, was yesterday's detentions the largest PCUN has seen so far? The Oregonian reported that this might have been the largest raid that it's seen so far in Oregon. And can you speak to that or confirm?
Yes, yesterday was the biggest day we had seen since the president had started. So it was a significant escalation of what we'd seen in the last few weeks, even the last few months. And I think that one thing that really went under the radar when the 200 National Guards were deployed and then paused was that there was also 100 ICE and federal agents that were also deployed. Those folks were not paused with the TRO, and they continued their operation. So I think that a lot of that could be correlated to just the amount of more staff capacity that they have.
And Rita, you talked about the significant escalation in October. So what does that mean for you guys? How has training maybe changed for your teams, or now that there was another 30 arrests in Woodburn yesterday? So what does that mean for the future on kind of preparing resources maybe?
The community has been on high alert. They have been in a place of feeling at high risk, high vulnerability since January. But I think that what we had been preparing for with Know Your Rights trainings, getting people resources, making sure they had their safety plans, really came into fruition in a big way over the last 2 weeks. What I can feel from the community is a lot of frustration. They're scared, but they're also pissed. They're very upset. They are saying, we're not criminals, we're workers. We're here to make a better life for our families, and they don't understand why they're being treated this way. So for us, the pivot is really going to be in just really scaling up the work, really, making sure that we get more Know Your Rights trainings out there for folks, making sure that there is some kind of fund under Worker Relief Fund, which thankfully is still around after the emergency response that happened during COVID, where we can be able to deploy some kind of financial relief to families whose head of family is gone. Because a lot of the folks that got picked up yesterday, they were the main breadwinners of their family. So there's moms and kids right now that they don't know how they're gonna make rent. They don't know what they're gonna do when it comes to their financial reality. So figuring out how we can do some of that mutual aid. And then the other side of it is making sure that we turn that fear into action, right? And making sure that people can hear from us directly who we are, not from somebody else who doesn't know who we are. And a lot of that will involve some kind of organizing effort to bring that to light in a different way.
I think we have one more online with the thank you. Cedar has a question for Graham. Go ahead, Cedar.
Hey, Graham, thanks. I'm just wondering, I know it might be logistically difficult, but have you been able to ascertain of any of these 30 or 200 folks, if they've been like active union members?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Related to the specifics of yesterday's actions and the 200 number that was referenced, we don't have details. We do know that union members have been impacted both in Oregon and across the country.
And sorry, and secondly, I wanted to give you the opportunity to comment on the Vice President's remarks yesterday, which I can sort of summarize for you. He suggested that a certain level of diversity it destroys social trust and limits labor union organizing. And I wonder if you could just talk about how that's been in practice in your experience.
Having a hard time taking that one seriously. I couldn't disagree more. I think the labor movement believes that diversity truly is our strength. We know that working class people have a common struggle, and that's against billionaires. And I would just leave you with a final comment. Working people have a lot more in common than an immigrant worker, between an immigrant worker and themselves, than they do with a billionaire.
That's right. I think Christian has a question, and then we have one more online, and then I think we have to wrap.
So what would you say to the more than half voters who voted for this administration and want to see immigration laws upheld. What do you say to that?
You know, some of those voters were Latinos, unfortunately. And what I hear from a lot of our community who felt that way was actually, it wasn't even about immigrants. It was around the economy. It was around things that they felt like they were voting for change and they didn't see it, right? They didn't see it with the Democratic Party. And unfortunately, that disillusion made them think that maybe someone else, someone like this, who was speaking really beautifully to people, was very charismatic, made them think that it could be a real change. But what I'm hearing from a lot of folks, a lot of Latinos, a lot of our men who voted for him, they regret it. They said they didn't think it was gonna be like this. They really truly thought he was gonna make the economy better. They really truly thought that he was gonna invest in businesses here locally. They really truly thought that workers, low-wage workers, were gonna be able to get an increase in their pay, and none of that has happened. If anything, the economy's worse. So I really hope that, that we can find some real leaders that can change that for people who are really struggling to make ends meet today.
Juan Carlos, did you want to add anything to that?
Thank you for the question. Again, Juan Carlos Gonzalez, member of the Metro Council. I could not agree more with what Reina just shared. And I think the administration is in a race against time to prove to voters their initial promises. They lied to the community, and I think we're starting to see people are waking up to the fact that our rents are not lower, our groceries are not more affordable. Meanwhile, the richest and most powerful in this country are running away with the riches of our nation. And that is a huge problem that we need to be concerned about. And we need to start focusing here locally. How does Oregon take care of Oregon? How does Greater Portland take care of Greater Portland? Thanks.
I think we have one last question on the line, and then we're gonna wrap. Mom, you are gonna bring us home.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I was hoping you could maybe speak a little bit to, just the general concerns about farm production over the next couple months with these rates, right? Like, how do you expect this to impact things like production and, cost of groceries, and additionally, for seasonal workers who are already facing, lower wages and stuff like that in these winter months. Like, I guess I'm curious how these rates affect, the community's economic well-being as well.
It's going to have a significant income and impact, and it already has. Luckily, in some ways for agribusiness, October is the end of the big harvest. Now we're going to be going into the Christmas tree, and there's going to be a lot less work during the winter. But when we're going to feel it a lot harder is in May, when the harvest starts again. In the past, though, if we speak historically to moments where there were efforts to deport massively, we have seen that it impacted the farm labor economy in a very detrimental way. Fruit went bad, grapes went unpicked, strawberries went unpicked, and that's bad for our economy. And I think that even though we haven't seen growers be as vocal as our farm labor workforce, I think that they also know that the foundation of the ag economy and the backbone is farm workers. And right now we are the most vulnerable to the fact that we still don't have any kind of answer around immigration reforms and any kind of pathway to legalization, so that we can be here to contribute like we have been doing in a safer way.